Okay, we are back with the PFL this Friday night from the theater in Madison Square Garden. Yet not actually in Madison Square Garden, but like the theater they have in Madison Square. I've never been to MSG, so I think this is how it is. Anyways, it's not actually in Madison Square Garden. Now when Francis Ngannou fights for the PFL against either like Derek Lewis or Fabricio Verdum, maybe they will actually get the sold-out 18,000 Madison Square Garden. This fight, unfortunately, though, with Ferreira and Maurice Greene will not be in front of 18,000 people. However, that is your main event in the heavyweight division this weekend. It is the second of two heavyweight fights, so it's the 2-seed Ferreira taking on the 5-seed Maurice Greene, and then also you get Dennis Goltsov taking on Jordan Heiderman in the 1-4. Women's fights, we've got the trilogy bout. Larissa Pacheco and Olena Kolesnyk will do it again. And then Marina Mokhnatkina takes on Amber Leibrock. I'll be honest with you, this is the weakest out the three PFL playoff cards. This card just isn't that great. We talk about every single PFL card, Bellator, UFC, we do them all. However, this is one of the weaker ones that I have seen to date. This one is pretty bad, but we'll do it. Also, folks, if you haven't yet, though, go make sure to check out our UFC predictions. Yesterday, we posted our UFC 292 predictions with Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley in the main event, so go check out that video if you haven't yet. Let's now get into this 11-fight card. And folks, also make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. We will start this card off, though, in the heavyweight division. We have got Daquan Buckley taking on Louis Southerland. Southerland, the fighter coming out of England or Scotland. He'll be taking on Buckley in this one. For Louis Southerland, this is a guy who's 1-1 in the PFL, came in on the PFL playoff cards last year, lost by unanimous decision, then came back on the Challenger Series, won by second round knockout. However, since then in 2023, just a month ago, he lost on Levels Fight League to a fighter who is now 6-2. I'm just losing the fight by unanimous decision. Southerland's going to bring the heat. He's going to try to go in there. He's going to try to knock you out. Obviously, again, before we get to the playoff bouts here, until we get to the final four, really, these first 7 fights are just showcase bouts for the PFL. They really don't mean much. I don't really know how many of these guys are actually going to progress into the PFL season next year. They're just fights on the docket that we kind of just got to get through, and then we will get, of course, to the 4 important playoff fights. But Southerland's opponents will be Daquan Buckley. Buckley's 4-1, 1-1 in LFA. The loss being to one Jordan Heiderman, who is in the postseason tonight, or is in the playoff fight. His other win in the PFL, or he's got a win in the PFL in the Challenger Series back in 2022. His first win professionally was in LFA, a win in Titan FC by split decision, and most recently a win on CFFC, winning the fight by knockout in the first round. Buckley's the favorite. He's the favorite, I believe, in the odds on Tapology as well. I have more favor in Buckley to win the fight. He's looked better against tougher competition as well. I know Heiderman did go out there and submit him in the first round, but again, Jordan Heiderman is a dog. This guy, like, the guy's really good. He's gonna be fighting Goltsov for a chance to make it to the championship fight. Buckley's faced tougher competition in tougher promotions such as CFFC, LFA, even the Challenger Series. I know Southerland's been in the Challenger Series as well, but I think Buckley's better. I think you're gonna see both these guys just go at it on the feet, and I think Daquan Buckley is gonna be able to go out there and pick up the victory. I'm gonna take Buckley to win this fight by first round knockout. On to our next one. We've got a fight here in the flyweight division. We have got the former Ultimate fighter, and Caitlin Neal should be taking on Maria Mazar in this fight. For Mazar, 8-6 professionally, coming off a loss over lost to Dirty Dez by unanimous decision on the Challenger Series this year. Obviously, Yanez losing her last fight on the first PFL playoff card. Before that, for Mazar, losing a fight to Danny McCormack in Invicta. She fought in one championship. She went 1-2 over there, losing her first fight, winning her second and dropping her third. Just a 50-50 fighter, for being honest, with Maria Mazar. A striker, they build her as a jiu-jitsu fighter. However, I haven't seen it. She's lost 4 times by submission in the past. She's won by knockout 5 times. She only has 8 professional wins now, and 5 of them are by finish on the feet. She's got 1 by submission. But again, I just haven't been all that impressed with her. Caitlin Neal's a fighter that they brought in for the Challenger Series as well. She won her fight by unanimous decision, not in the most entertaining fashion. It did not grant her a contract in the PFL. However, they are bringing her back for the Challenger Series, or for not the Challenger Series, just for this card. She was on the Ultimate Fighter season. I believe she was the 8 seed. Well, I don't think they pre-ranked the fighters, but they kind of felt like Caitlin Neal was one of the, not the younger, but one of the less experienced fighters who should be, I guess she was experienced, but just not one of the as good fighters. She was 4-4 going into the season. She beats Helen Peralta, who was supposed to be billed as the the fighter that was likely going to win the season. However, Peralta went on to lose in the same Challenger Series where Caitlin Neal won on. But Neal beats Peralta by split decision, then runs it at Juliana Miller, where she gets submitted with a Kimura in the second round. Now, Juliana Miller's in the UFC now. I'm recording this before she goes and fights on the Luque and Dos Anjos card against Luana Santos. I'm expecting her to lose, I'll be honest with you. And yes, I am recording this a couple weeks ahead just because got to get stuff done. Just in life. But yeah, so if there's any changes to this card, I am recording this a couple weeks in advance. However, so Caitlin Neal loses to Juliana Miller, beats Hannah Guy outside of the Ultimate Fighter. Obviously, Hannah Guy was on the Ultimate Fighter as well. I thought she was going to do pretty well in that, and she lost to Brogan Walker, and she's lost 2 fights since. But Caitlin Neal beats her by unanimous decision. Then Caitlin Neal goes on her next fight to win by decision as well. That all being said, I think Caitlin Neal's got the experience. I think she is pretty solid, honestly. I think she's all around a good fighter. You're not going to get the most entertaining fight, let's just be honest with Caitlin Neal, but you're going to see a solid stand-up game, and I think Caitlin Neal is going to come out here and pick up a second win in the PFL. Give me Neal to win by unanimous decision. Okay, on to our next one. Laureano Staropoli, the former UFC fighter, takes on Ben Egli in this fight. Yeah, Staropoli should win. Ben's last fight, he went in there, got knocked down in the first round by Mokhnatkina. Now, I have not watched that full fight. I've just seen the clip. It's only a minute because I wasn't watching that episode of the PFL live or that event. But yeah, Ben's a guy who's 14-5 professionally. He ran into Nick Brown a long time ago in LFA. He lost by unanimous decision. He picked up 2 wins after the Brown fight and then got the shot to go fight Mokhnatkina, where obviously they threw him right into the wolves. Ben's going to try to get the fight down to the ground, though. That's where he specializes in. He's a really good jiu-jitsu guy. He's got 12 wins by submission. But something to know, every time he gets into a major organization or a promotion, he loses. He's 0-1 in the PFL, he's 0-1 in LFA, and he's 0-1 in ACB as well. He takes on the former UFC fighter in Laureano Staropoli. Losing to Jamie Pickett and being sent outside the UFC, Staropoli has won 3 straight fights in Aries FC. Now he gets the call in the PFL. Going 2-4 in the UFC, did Staropoli. He won his first 2 fights against Hector Aldana and Thiago Alves, then dropped one to Muslim Salikov, Tim Means, Roman Dolidze, and Jamie Pickett. All 4 of those fights by unanimous decision. Obviously the UFC kind of had to get rid of him, but Staropoli, again, since then has looked really good. Big finish in his last fight in the second round over there in the main event of an Aries FC card for the interim Aries FC welterweight championship. So now he gets the shot into the PFL. Staropoli is going to look to keep the fight on the feet. He's going to look to outstrike his opponent here. I think he's going to pick up the victory. I think Staropoli comes in the PFL and wins this one by unanimous decision. Knowing the PFL, they like their former UFC names. They will likely offer Staropoli a shot in the season next year if he looks somewhat impressive here. I think it will be. I think it will be a dominant 30-27 performance for Laureano Staropoli to make his way now on to the PFL roster. Okay, our next fight is another former UFC name. We have got Danilo Marques to take on his opponent here. Satoshi Ishii comes in this one, 36 years old. He's fought in the PFL before. He's fought in Bellator before. He's fought pretty much everywhere, 36 years old. This guy has been around. Fighting out of Croatia from Osaka, Japan. A professional record of 26 wins, 13 losses, and 1 draw. Last seen in the PFL in 2019 in the heavyweight division, where he lost both of his fights to Jared Rochalt, the Big Show, and then Dennis Goltsov after that by a majority decision. He ran into another former PFL name, or I guess that was before Stuart Austin was in the PFL. Ishii loses to Austin by unanimous decision. He has gone on a pretty sizable win streak. Well, I guess it's 2 fights. He's won a lot of kickboxing fights. Then he's gone on to in his MMA fights. He has won 2 in a row now. And for Ishii, he's going to try to get you down to the ground. That's where, again, he's best at. He's good on the ground. He's a good grappler. However, Danilo Marques is a pretty good grappler as well. Now, Marques was featured on the PFL season this year as well. He fought Yorgan de Castro first, where he beat him by unanimous decision, then lost to Marcelo Nunes after that in a fight where the winner would get into the postseason. Now, for Nunes, he got injured, I do believe. That's why he's not fighting against Hernan Ferreira, and originally I think the main event of this card, even though I don't know why it's not Goltsov and Heiderman. I feel like it should be. But Nunes had to withdraw, but Marques obviously is still on the outside looking into the postseason, so now they book him here against Ishii. It's an interesting fight, because, you saw Marques in the UFC, went 2-2, beat Hadias Ibrahimov by submission, or by decision, then submitted Mike Solo Rodriguez, got TKO'd by Kennedy Nzechukwu in a fight where Marques was kind of winning at points. He was just kind of human backpacking Nzechukwu up against the fence for a long time in that fight, but Nzechukwu beats him, and then he ran into Jairton Almeida, and Almeida beat him. Well, Jairton Almeida is going to be in a main event in Brazil in November against Curtis Blades in a fight where if he wins, he's in a position where he could be fighting for the world championship next, right? So Marques is a guy, though, who fought a lot, and I mean a lot of, just bad competition outside the UFC and the PFL. But once he has got into both these promotions, he has made a decent account of himself. Now, he's taken on a guy, though, here in Ishii, who is a tremendous grappler, and it's just going to make for an interesting fight. Obviously, Ishii fought in Bellator a long time ago. They gave him Quentin Rampage Jackson, I don't know why I said that. Rampage beat him by split decision. Yuri Prochazka knocked him out in Ryzen. King Mo beat him over there in Bellator as well. Ishii's got a win over Heath Hearing in Ryzen. He's fought everyone. I mean, he started fighting in 2008, right? He beat Tim Sylvia back in 2012. He beat Pedro Rizzo back in 2013 as well. Just a lot of different fights that Ishii has had. However, he's 36 years old. He's fought a lot of fights at this point. I just think it's a tough matchup for him. I think Danilo Marques, honestly, is slightly better. I think Marques' striking is slightly better. I think, it might be an odd pick here because I think a lot of people are taking Ishii to win. It's just that what has Ishii done, in his last run in the PFL? Not much. I think Marques is still, again, at the level where he is competitive in the PFL, and that's why I'm going to go with Danilo Marques to beat Satoshi Ishii by unanimous decision. All right, our next fight will come now in the heavyweight division. We've got Abraham Buckley taking on Anthony Wint. I'm going to take Buckley to win this fight. He is 3-0 coming into this one. He's 2-0 in the PFL. We talked about Louis Southerland's first loss in the PFL. Well, that was because of Buckley knocking him out, or not knocking him out, winning by a decision. He finished his last opponent by TKO in Hassam Graham on the Challenger Series in his last fight. He's going to swing big. That's what he does. He's a bigger, I would say he's a pretty moderately sized heavyweight, around like 240. You're going to see Abraham out. He's taking on a guy here in Anthony Wint, who is 1-0. His only win coming in Titan FC, but the levels of competition you're going to get in Titan FC. It's not great. Titan FC it's Titan FC. I don't know really. I mean, if you haven't watched Titan, you just need to see it. They have a lot of bad fighters in Titan FC. The guy he took on, Luis Alfonso Garcia Diaz, is 2-3. But that's really all we have at Anthony Wint. It's one win by knockout. I think you're going to see both these guys throw. Wint's an MMA Masters guy. Buckley coming from Manchester Top Team over there, obviously in England. You're going to see both these guys throw. It's their first big shot on a big... Oh, actually, it's not Abraham's, but still for Wint, it's his big debut in front of the PFL crowd. Both these guys I think are going to swing. I'm going to take the favorite. I'm going to take Abraham Buckley to win this fight. I got him to take it by first round knockout. On to our next prelim. In our final prelim, we have got Chris Mixan taking on Eddie George. Not the running back for the Tennessee Titans back in the 1990s and the 2000s, but the fighter Eddie George, who is 6-1. Coming off a loss in his last fight by Peruvian Necktie over in CES. It's a guy that's honestly just pretty unproven. He's beat a lot of guys who aren't very good. He's beaten by knockout, and he's taken on Chris Mixan here, who is 5-0. We're going to be taking Mixan by decision in this one just because, again, George is pretty unproven. Mixan is a guy who we've seen twice before in the PFL, winning on the Challenger Series in 2022, then winning a split decision on the PFL playoff card last year. It feels like a spot where Mixan can win. I think his striking is better. Yes, Eddie George has looked good in the regionals, beating up on guys who aren't that skilled by knockout. However, again, Chris Mixan has showed in the past that he can weather the storm. I know his opponents haven't been all that great as well, especially in his last fight where he won it by 15-second knockout. He beat a guy who was 7-9. However, I just think he's better. I think the PFL knows what they're doing. They're pushing an agenda. They want their guy to win, and I think Chris Mixan will pick up the victory. I've got him to win this fight by unanimous decision. All right, on to the main card. First fight is not a playoff fight, but then the rest of the way we will have playoff fights. The first main card fight, though, is Nate Kelly taking on Damian Nelson. As we gotta switch that. Boom. Okay. There's a reason the PFL doesn't even have a picture of Damian Nelson on their page. He's coming off a 2-fight losing streak, losing a fight in CES and then losing one in CFFC in his last one by split decision. It's just an odd pairing with Nate Kelly here. Nate Kelly 7-2. This is a guy who we've seen in Bellator in 2022. The PFL got a hold of him. He beat Ben Ellis in his first fight in a fight that he was actually an underdog in, but he submitted Ellis in the first round. And then after that, he beat Zachary Hicks on the Challenger Series this year by first round submission. This is a very advanced and a very high-level submission guy. He's going to try to get you down to the ground. He's going to try to submit you. I think it's a very tough fight for Damian Nelson. You look at the two losses that Nate Kelly has got. Well, those are the first two fights of his career. 2017, 2018, respectively. Since then, since 2021, he has won 6 straight fights. The guy has kind of turned around. He's an SBG Ireland guy, and he's only 26 years old. And especially I mean, especially against an opponent who is not very skilled in Damian Nelson. This is a guy, again, who has been submitted in the past. He submitted 2 fights ago in CES. Who's to say he's not going to get submitted again? I think this is a big opportunity for Nate Kelly. I think Kelly on a main card of a PFL or not pay-per-view, but a PFL playoff card. I think Nate Kelly goes out there and picks up the victory. I think he's going to find the takedown. I think he'll find the back. And I think Nate Kelly goes out there and picks up a first-round submission victory over Damian Nelson. Okay, I don't know why my camera was all weird on the screen. I'm not sure. My OBS has been glitching, so if you just saw like a portion of my face for the last couple ones, and for the Hernan Ferreira and the Nate Kelly one, I'll apologize. I don't know what the hell is going on. Hopefully I'll get it fixed. I'm hoping it's all right now for this one. I think it is. I don't know. My OBS has been glitching. However, our first playoff fight comes in the form of a fight here in the featherweight division. We have got Marina Mokhnatkina taking on Amber Leibrock. You've got the 2-seeded Mokhnatkina taking on the number 3 seed in Amber Leibrock. Well, how did both these fighters get here, and how did a 7-5 fighter in Amber Leibrock make it to the postseason? Well, her first fight, she won by knockout. She knocked out Martina Jindrova in the first round with a head kick, and at women's featherweight, a first-round knockout basically guarantees no matter what you do in your second fight, you will likely make it onto the PFL playoffs, and that's exactly what she did. She beat Jindrova. They gave her Luisa Pacheco next. Pacheco knocks her out in the first round. Pacheco advances to the playoffs, and Leibrock's basically still in. So Leibrock's got the 3 seed. She'll be taking on Marina Mokhnatkina. We'll talk about Mokhnatkina in a second. Leibrock was always an interesting, addition into the PFL season, I would say, because, she fought in Bellator. She did not fight that well in Bellator. She went 1-3. She beats Janae Harding in her first fight. Then she loses to Arlene Blanco, loses to Amanda Bell, loses to Jessica Borga, wins 3 fights against fighters who aren't that great. The PFL gets her, and she beats Martina Jindrova, and then she loses to Luisa Pacheco. But now she's in the postseason. Now, Mokhnatkina is a huge favorite in this fight, I would say for good reason. Her only loss in the PFL is Kayla Harrison. She went 15 minutes with Kayla Harrison. Now, am I saying Mokhnatkina is going to, if she gets Luisa Pacheco, is she going to be Luisa Pacheco? Likely not. I don't think Pacheco is losing to anyone, honestly. However, Mokhnatkina is another fighter who has seen Bellator before. She went 1-1 over there. She lost to Janae Harding. She beat Amanda Bell. Amanda Bell's a fighter who knocked out Amanda Leibrock in the first round, and Mokhnatkina actually beat her in 2021. And so then Mokhnatkina was sent to the PFL. She wins on a showcase bout in 2021. Kayla Harrison fight, main event, goes 15 minutes, doesn't win a round, but still goes the full 15, and then beats Abby Montez by split decision in her final fight in 2022, takes a fight outside the PFL, wins it by by Americana in late in 2022, then comes back into 2023, picks up a second round TKO finish over Yoko Higashi. Yoko Higashi was this year's Jamagul Fazlinova from last year, and then she beats Evelyn Martins by unanimous decision after that. So Mokhnatkina is now the 2 seed. She has 8 points. Leibrock's got 6. I don't think Leibrock's that great. I think she ran into a Martina Jindrova who's not very good either. She knocked her out. She landed a really nice head kick. That's fair. But aside from the occasional power that Leibrock will show, I think Mokhnatkina is the way more complete fighter. I think Mokhnatkina's got way more skills on the ground. I even think her striking can remain a little bit comparable with Leibrock, even though I think Leibrock's obviously going to want to find the feet because she will have the advantage on the feet. However, on the ground, it's going to be all Marina Mokhnatkina. I think that's where Mokhnatkina gets this fight. I think she drags Leibrock down and she beats her by decision. Give me Marina Mokhnatkina to win this fight by unanimous decision. Advancing to the winner of Pacheco and Kolesnyk. We'll talk about that later. First, we've got a fight in the heavyweight division. We have got Dennis Goltsov taking on Jordan Heiderman. Heiderman undefeated 7-0. However, does have 1 knockout loss to Zach Pounga over on the Ultimate Fighter season 30. But in technically non-amateur bouts, Heiderman has won every single one. In the PFL now, he has 1 fight over. He's a win over another undefeated guy, and Patrick Brady, who's like 39 years old, and Brady's got a knee injury. Now, is it Heiderman or is it Brady with the win? Or is it Heiderman winning or is it Brady just getting hurt? It's kind of both. Heiderman gets the quick 6. He gets into the postseason. This is a guy who, fought in LFA before. He's an undefeated fighter. He's got the big Americana victory before his PFL run where he beat Daquan Buckley, who we talked about earlier. He's got wins in LFA. Of course, the Ultimate Fighter. He beat Chandler Cole in his first fight, then dropped to Zach Pounga after. Heiderman's solid. However, look who he's fighting. Dennis Goltsov is the obvious favorite in this PFL heavyweight division, by far. Goltsov's been around since 2019. Now, how did he not win in 2019? He ran into Ali Isaev. Isaev knocked him out with the second left in the playoffs in 2019. 2021, he comes back. He beats Moderiz. He beats Brandon Sales. He runs into Ante Dilia. He loses by unanimous decision. There is no Ante Dilia this time because Dilia won his last fight, but only won it by decision. It was his only fight in 2023. So he beats Maurice Greene. However, Greene has more points, so Greene's in the playoffs, and Dilia is not. So there is no Dilia to beat Goltsov this time around. 2022, Goltsov beats Cody Goodale. He beats Maurice Greene. He's then booked in a playoff fight against Bruno Capoloza, and then later Matus Sheffel. However, Goltsov has to pull out due to visa issues. Now here we are in 2023. He beat Cesar Ferreira in the first round, obviously, and then knocks out Yorgan de Castro in 18 seconds in his last fight. This fight is going to be more of the same. Goltsov is the best fighter in this heavyweight division. He's on a collision course, I think, to win this entire thing. I like Heiderman, but I really don't think he's comparable to Goltsov. If Zach Pounga is knocking out Heiderman, and by the way, Pounga is a light heavyweight now in the UFC. Denis Goltsov, who is a heavyweight in the PFL, is going to win this fight. He's 6'5". He's much bigger than Pounga is. Goltsov has got so much power. He's going to go run there and go straight through Heiderman. First round knockout finish for Goltsov. I don't think Heiderman's able to get the fight down, and Goltsov's going to win this fight by first round knockout. On to our next one. The winner of this fight will be taking on Marina Mokhnatkina, and it's Larissa Pacheco and Olena Kolesnyk. Wow. It's the third fight between these two. It's, one of the most storied trilogies of all time. I'm just kidding. It's not. What are we doing here? I mean, we can look back at their first fight between Pacheco and Kolesnyk. You got to go back to 2021. It's a first round knockout win for Larissa Pacheco. Now they get booked again in the postseason in 2022. What happens? It's a first round knockout for Larissa Pacheco. We're back here in 2023. It's another fight in the postseason. Again, the PFL kind of can't get rid of Kolesnyk because she kind of keeps making the playoffs. And she beat Aspen Ladd. She's actually 2-0 this year, so it's kind of hard to get rid of her. She's made the playoffs the last 2 years. She won both her regular season fights last year against Montez and Vanessa Mello, but she runs into Pacheco and loses. Then she wins her next two against Ladd and Higashi this year in 2023, so she gets a shot. But it's like, Larissa Pacheco's not losing. Like, you look what she's able to do. Leibrock, she beat by knockout. Beat Bud by decision. Harrison by decision. Kolesnyk, knockout. Fabian, knockout. TKO. Zamagul, knockout. Kolesnyk, knockout. Like, she doesn't lose fights. She's on a different level than any of these other fighters. She's only 28 years old. I really think Pacheco is the best fighter the PFL has got at women's featherweight, or by far. I think she's better than Kayla Harrison at this point, because Kayla Harrison doesn't really fight in the sport anymore, and Kayla Harrison is a little bit one-dimensional. She just is. Larissa Pacheco can win it on the feet. Larissa Pacheco can win it on the ground. Larissa Pacheco is the whole package. And again, she creates fights where she gets finishes early, especially against these lower level fighters, unlike Julia Budd, right? Bud is still, she's at the end of her career, but again, Bud can make it 15 minutes with a fighter like Pacheco. Fighters like Amber Leibrock, Olena Kolesnyk, and even Marina Mokhnatkina. Even though I think Mokhnatkina will give Pacheco a little bit of a harder fight, I still think it's not even close. Pacheco is still better than all these fighters at 145, and that's why I really think if Bellator comes in and the PFL buys Bellator, then you get some actual fights for Larissa Pacheco at 145 pounds, because then you add a bunch of fighters and a bunch of good fighters at that. I mean, I know, they don't have many women's featherweights, but Chris Cyborg, right? I mean, is Chris Cyborg going to stick around in MMA? I don't know, but you get a Chris Cyborg. You get Leah McCourt. But again, Leah McCourt's still a fighter that can, it's just, she's better than some of these other featherweights. You're going to get Kat Zingano. You're going to get Blanco. You're going to get Sinead Kavanaugh. You're going to get Pam Sorensen. Wait, is Pam Sorensen still in Bellator? She is. You get Sarah Collins. You get some of these fighters who aren't the greatest. You get a Leslie Smith, but you just get tougher fights for Pacheco. And if Pacheco can wipe out all these fighters, then she's legit. Sarah McMahon's a tough fight, right? So I think, again, it would really help the PFL if they get Bellator, especially for this weight class. Because, okay, you do that. Again, you're hoping they get Bellator, everything goes to 16 instead of 10. Or, hell, you can keep this one at 10, really. Your weight class, by the way, Pacheco's going to win this fight by first round knockout, but the weight class that featherweight goes, you kind of have to keep, I think, Kolesnyk around. So you go Pacheco, Kolesnyk, Mokhnatkina, Bud, Ladd. I get Cyborg doesn't want to fight this. She might just join the Super Fight League if she keeps on fighting. Sinead Kavanaugh, Sarah Collins, Kat Zingano, Sarah McMahon, Leah McCourt. Boom. There's your 10. That is a very competitive featherweight division. Everyone's kind of on better than Elena Kolesnyk, I think, and maybe even Mokhnatkina, I think, is competitive with some. But still, I just feel like you probably keep Kolesnyk around because then you can just do the 4th fight with Pacheco and Kolesnyk on the first card next year. Anyways, Pacheco wins first round knockout. On to the main event. In the heavyweight division, Maurice Greene gets a shot in the playoffs against Hernan Ferreira. For Maurice Greene, this is a guy who, he's been around. He won his first fight. He knocks out Marcelo Nunes in his first fight by knockout in the second round. Now, he was not going to make the playoffs because Marcelo Nunes got a first-round knockout, so he got 6 points and Greene had 5, so Greene would be on the way out. However, Nunes had to withdraw because, also, by the way, Greene got Ante Dalia, and his next fight, Dalia beats him by unanimous decision. So, again, Greene was out, but now he's back in, actually, because Nunes is out, because he had to drop out, so Maurice Greene's in the playoffs. This is a guy in the UFC who's lost to Marques Rodrigo de Lima, who's a good fighter, but Greg Hardy, Alexei Oleinik, Sergey Pavlovich. Honestly, his UFC losses are not that bad other than Greg Hardy. His wins, though, are Jan Vellante, Junior Albani, Jeff Hughes, and Michael Batista. It's not great wins. He found the Ultimate Fighter. He beat PM in his first fight, and then he lost to Juan Espino. I don't even know what happened to PM. Does this guy... Oh, wait, PM was on the PFL last year. I forgot about that. He lost to Lee Chadwick. Anyways, Hernan Ferreira should go right through him. Like, again, both these guys are big heavyweights, don't get me wrong. Maurice Greene's 6'7", Hernan Ferreira is 6'8". That's why this fight is a little bit exciting, because both these guys are huge. However, Ferreira should be able to win. He's actually only got one fight, right, this year, because the Kuniev fight was a no contest, because Kuniev tested positive for steroids, and Kuniev actually beat him by decision, but Kuniev is now disqualified. And then in Ferreira's fight against Matus Sheffel, he beats him by knockout in the first round. Here we are. He's got 6 points now. He should beat Maurice Greene. He really should. I think Ferreira's the better fighter. He's got better striking skills. He's a long fighter. Don't get me wrong, Greene is too. These are both big guys. Ferreira's got 85-inch reach, and Maurice Greene's got 82-inch reach. Now Ferreira is very beatable. Like, I think Goltsov will likely beat him. Like, again, Ante Dalia beat him in the playoffs last year. So Ferreira is a very beatable fighter. However, you got to take him down really to beat him. Like, that's how Fabricio Verdum technically tapped him. And that's how, again, Dalia would beat him. Maurice Greene is not going to take him down. Maurice Greene's only, he's got submissions, but Maurice Greene's probably not going to be able to get a takedown here. And I think Hernan Ferreira is going to go in there and just really mop the floor with him. I think Ferreira is able to win. I think it goes to the second round. I think that's where Hernan Ferreira seals the deal. Hernan Ferreira wins this fight by second round TKO, advancing into the final fight, the championship fight against Dennis Goltsov. So far, we will have Jesus Pinedo versus Gabriel Braga. The rematch, the PFL has got the fight that they really didn't want, I don't think, because just name value, that's really bad, but it's a rematch of their first fight on the first card of the regular season, which is great. But, like, okay, I feel like everyone's forgetting Jesus Pinedo missed weight in his last fight. The PFL's always so strict about these things. The dude missed weight, and he's still, we didn't see it. What are we doing? Like, I know Loughnane probably wasn't there to, be a backup fighter, but seriously, we're gonna let the guy who missed weight go to the championship fight? He missed weight by half pound. Come on. It wasn't at 145. He missed weight at 146 and a half. I just think it's stupid. Like, honestly, should have let Papa Jenkins go to the final. I know Pinedo's the better fighter and he beat him, but still, it's like, the guy missed weight. We'll see him in Braga, and then you got Kasanganay and Silveira, which is a very fun fight. And then, obviously, I think we're gonna get some fun fights with the welterweights and, of course, the 155-pounders. But we'll see that next week again on Wednesday. Like, what are we doing? But anyways, folks, that will do it for PFL playoff card number 2, PFL 8. This season. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to like if you did enjoy the video. We will be back next week for Clay Collard and Shane Burgos in the main event. So folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba. Thank you for watching, and Mamba forever.